Hello, welcome to my new channel, Read With Me. I did intend to focus on banned books. However, I wanted to start with a favorite, a classic storybook written by a well-known children's author, Margaret Wise Brown. This book is a favorite with the children in our family and the children and their parents at the local library where I work. And as I like to say, picture books are for everyone. Let's take some time to learn a little bit about Miss Brown, a rather unusual person, not unlike most of our favored and interesting children's authors. Margaret Wise Brown was born in Brooklyn, New York in May 1910 in an affluent family, and she was well educated up into adulthood. She was a middle child and devoted children's author later in life. She became highly celebrated with her first published book in 1937 entitled When the Wind Blew. And she was an advocate for a new approach in children's education and literature. This approach sought to emphasize real-time, real-world experience. This was also known as the here and now approach. Now, Ms. Brown gained popularity with this philosophy, and it was ingrained into her unique writing style with the publications of The Runaway Bunny and the well-known Goodnight Moon. Now, with these two items, these two titles, she did team up with a noted American children's illustrator. That would be Clement Hurd. You might have seen a lot of his work in early Little Golden Books and early picture books. This teamwork proved fruitful. It was an artistic and professional relationship only. Her literary hero was, in fact, American poet Gertrude Stein. And this fandom led her to become recruited by Miss Stein while she was working as an editor for Scott Publishing on a project designed to engage authors who ordinarily didn't write for children to enter the field. The result is still the popular The World is Round. This was written in collaboration with Brown and Weisgard in a 1939 publication of The Noisy Book. Now, she had an unusual personal life. She did, in fact, have an affair with a married man. She was openly bisexual at a time in the mid-30s to mid-1940s where it was quite unacceptable in the public eye. And she was a devoted wife and mother, for she was in fact married and played her role as a dutiful mid-century American woman. Goodnight Moon is the item that she is most well known for. It sold over 14 million copies, and it did cement her career and her legacy as a beloved children's author. However, you might be surprised, maybe even dismayed to know that during an interview, I believe it was with an editor and contributor in Time Life magazine, she was once quoted as saying, "I don't especially like children, at least not as a group. I won't let anybody get away with anything just because he's little." Okay, well, Brown did pass in 1952 at the age of 42 in Nice, France, after becoming engaged to a Rockefeller. That was Mr. James Pebble Rockefeller Jr. She had become enamored of him, and they had a relationship earlier in that year. Unfortunately, she succumbed to illness and did pass. But her reputation as an independent and adventurous individual and pioneering children's author remains. Well, with that, I'd like for us to spend some time today with Goodnight Moon by Margaret Wise Brown. Illustrated by Clement Hurd. Now, this is my first reading on this channel. I'll try to do a better job of showing the items. So let us begin. In the great green room, there was a telephone and a red balloon and a picture of the cow jumping over the moon. And there were 3 little bears sitting on chairs. And 2 little kittens and a pair of mittens. And a little toy house and a young mouse. And a comb and a brush and a bowl full of mush. And a quiet old lady who was whispering, "Hush." Good night, room. Good night, moon. Good night, cow jumping over the moon. Good night, light and the red balloon. Good night, bears. Good night, chairs. Good night, kittens. And good night, mittens. Good night, clocks. And good night, socks. Good night, little house. And good night, mouse. Good night, comb. And good night, brush. Good night, nobody. Good night, mush. And good night to the old lady whispering, "Hush." Good night, stars. Good night, air. Good night, noises. Everywhere. That's Cleo, our cat. I think she enjoyed it. And I hope you did too. I found it interesting that a truck going by outside was just in time for good night noises everywhere. Well, we've always found this book pleasant and meditative and calming, and I sure hope you did too. And I thank you for joining me this evening, and I look forward to reading more with you. Take care, everyone.